The second question is, in understanding of our neighbors from a fair perspective, what do you think that Thai people are still lacking today?
คือความรู้เกี่ยวกับเรื่องในเชิงพื้นที่
Thai people still lack a set of knowledge, so-called area studies of our neighbor. We are not yet well-rounded regarding to the Burmese culture, ethnic differences, local livelihoods. Most texts and archives are in English language and are not very much in Thai, although a number of Thai researchers have produced lots of publications concerning those factors. I've seen many researches are in the form of documentaries. Some are conducted with interesting details, but some seem smattering. These studies have a tendency to shed light on Myanmar as a Buddhist country like Thailand. Myanmar, through their lens, possesses a pristine beauty and originality in Buddhism. This is yet not enough, as there are many aspects of Myanmar to study about. Thai people certainly lack an in-depth knowledge of our neighbors, such as how they think, what is their mindset and perception, probably towards us, their different political aspirations and ideologies. It's significant for us all to approach the knowledge in order to even understand better our neighbors on the path towards becoming an integrated society of Asean. Media and education thus are tools in delivering out such knowledge in an efficient way. Criticism is acceptable, but it has to be constructive.
คนไทยโดยภาพรวมนะครับโดยภาพรวมนี้ยังผมคิดว่ายัง
Generally, Thai people still lack of a context in order to understand Lao as a Lao, not as a Thai. No matter how similar our social and cultural values we share, simply we have to understand or appreciate Lao as Lao, or to put our feet in their shoes. Because most Thais often understand Lao in a Thai understanding, so it sometimes brings around an uncomfortable atmosphere to the relationship. To understand Lao and think as a Lao is important for Thai people, especially when communicating through language. Lao and Thai languages are quite similar, and some words are meaningfully correlated. I'm not pushing Thai to learn Lao language, but rather be aware of this significant difference, because this will raise cultural and social awareness to understand Lao better. I believe this resolution will even strengthen Thai-Lao relations, as we have been close partners since ancient times, until now, and of course, toward the ASEAN Economic Community.
น่าสนใจในการเป็นประชาคมอาเซียนเพราะว่า
จริงๆไทยก็ต้องศึกษาเวียดนามนะ
Thais lack a skill to acquire knowledge through text. Simply, most Thai people don't read that much. They tend to travel, but traveling can be academically fruitful as well. For me, I would very much suggest the government encourage young generations to do readings about Vietnam and how our relationship was in the past, as well as the present time. For my own traveling experience, I visited Vietnam back in the 1990s and found out that they have already acquired a great number of texts and archives about Thailand. On the other hand, we didn't even care about what was going on with Vietnam during the same period. We only perceived the picture of Vietnam as a belligerent communist. Ironically, we knew Vietnam through stories told by the Americans, but then the relations between Thailand and Vietnam have become naturalized. Thai people realized later that the Vietnamese War was instigated by what party, and literally in a name, that it was regarded by the Vietnamese as the American War. Thai later knew that South China Sea to Vietnam was the East Sea. That was a little bit of information that actually opened up a new horizon to the Vietnamese-Thai relation.
1980นะทศวรรษนั้นเนี่ยเอกสารเกี่ยวกับเวียดนามส่วนมากผ่านสายตาสหรัฐมาถ่ายทอดให้เราใช่ไหมครับประเด็นที่สำคัญที่สุดเลยผมเข้าใจว่าคนไทยเนี่ยขาดความรู้
Simply speaking, Thai people do not know or even care studying history of Cambodia. I mean, the real history, not the made-up one. Thai people don't give an attempt to read about neighbors or to understand them in their original way. Even now, some Thai people do not even call Cambodia the right way. This is academically disastrous. Thais must know Cambodia better than their former colonial master like France know them. We have to know their history, their cultural value, society, how they live a daily life. What are the do's and don'ts, for example? The relationship between Thais and Cambodians is contaminated once. Either Thailand or Cambodia look at one another in a centric perspective. Through mass media like broadcasts, Cambodians know well what's going on in Thailand, especially when our attitude toward them is publicized. That's why I've always been saying that we could take a look at each other, not just judging one another. We have to accept our cultural differences. That's also a key leading to a peaceful resolution. Secondly, Thai people should consider learning Khmer language, at least in a communicative basis. Most people often think, why do we have to study a language that's not widely used? But Khmer language is actually a deficient language in a global community. Less than 10% of the world population speak Khmer. This would be an advantage.
And our final question, looking towards 2015, context in historical transition from adjusting to survive in the past to adapting to peaceful relation as well as cooperation amongst neighbors. How do you see this phenomenon taking place?
คืออย่างนี้เนี่ยครับ AEC เนี่ยนะครับส่วนใหญ่เขาก็สนใจรัฐไม่มีพรมแดนอยู่แล้ว
People often are aware of the coming Asean Economic Community. We are informed of how we should prepare for the borderless single market and production base as an offspring of AEC. Everything is evolved around economic benefit, leaving behind the two most important pillars, political and socio-cultural. We should be encouraging our people more to learn about politics and socio-cultural backgrounds of our neighbors. Significantly, in terms of getting ready for the AEC, Thai investors must be aware of simple do's and don'ts of our CLMV neighbors, for example. So, political and socio-cultural backgrounds of Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam will give a certain set of knowledge to Thai entrepreneurs. For this, we will realize what are they suspicious of us, how will they react to foreign etiquette. We can trade and do business like professionals, but we also have to understand each other in terms of social value and local norms. Our relationships with neighbors will not be fruitful and sustainable if we aim to gain only profit by exploiting their natural resources, which certainly we lack of. Instead of sweeping for only profits, Thai investors should also look at how we can create jobs for the local people, how we can help bring up their business potential. This can be done in partners, but it doesn't have to be in a bilateral way. It could be multilateral. It's also where friendships can grow.
Actually, ASEAN nations, not just Laos and Thailand, have been cooperating even before the bloc foundation. I don't believe that any country could exist alone without cooperation with neighbors. In the context of Thailand and Laos, our physical borderline is only natural, but our deep cooperations in politics, economics, and social culture have become borderless. The condition has entered another stage of regionalism. Globalization has brought the size of the world to the smallest. Then it bears the fruit of regional integration for sweeping benefits of the people. ASEAN Economic Community 2015 thus sets an exact deadline for the integration to take a full effect. Laos and Thailand have been doing preparations for such integration, along with keeping the pace of bilateral cooperation. The bilateralism between Laos and Thailand then becomes another sub-stage of regionalism, with enough negotiating power to trade off some benefits in ASEAN.
ในระดับทั้งประเทศในระดับทั้งภูมิในระดับของประชาชน
เรียนว่าจะมี AEC หรือ AC ได้นะ
With the coming of ASEAN Economic Community of ASEAN Community as whole, I don't think it really does matter because countries in Southeast Asia have been cooperating with each other for a very long period of time. The development of Thai-Vietnamese relations has gradually become normal from 1990s onwards. I can say that both have already started past mistrust and gradually engraved it in history. Now I think it's all about encompassing every regional aspect into the ASEAN community, not just the economic pillar. We should all be prepared but not startled. The preparation should actually start with linguistic skills because I don't think English language is enough. If we look at Vietnam, their people have learned foreign languages other than English, but French, even Thai.
For ASEAN Economic Community, the adaptation among ASEAN countries toward one another require good understanding of each other. Cambodians have to learn more about Thainess, or what it is to be a Thai, while Thai people have to do the same, as we cannot judge our neighbor based on only what we have been informed. Information has to be reviewed for accuracy. It is unfair to the history if we make a false judgment for the story that was already true. For Thailand, I think we have to expand more knowledge horizon to get to know not just Cambodia, but other ASEAN countries better.
คือเราไม่จำเป็นต้องเหมือนกันทั้งหมดแต่เรามีจุดร่วมแล้วเราก็สามารถอยู่ร่วมกันในความต่างทางวัฒนธรรมอย่างที่เราเข้าใจ
And that's all the time we have today in Tours 2015. You can watch us again every weekdays from 3:30 to 4 p.m. on the Nation channel. For today, thank you for watching us. สวัสดีครับ